This video is going to be going over the equations for percent increase and decrease. Let's get started by reviewing how to find the percent of a number. So remember that if we want to do this, we can take the percent in decimal form, and then we're going to just multiply that by my original amount of the total, and that's going to give me my new values. So just a quick example, if I wanted 20% of, say, 50. To do this, I would turn this into a decimal, which is going to be 0.2, and I want 0.2 of 50, so I'm going to multiply that times 50, and 0.2 times 50 is going to give me 10. So 20% of 50 is going to be 10. That'll be my answer. Okay, so now we're going to get into the actual content, which is percent increase and percent decrease. So starting off, we're going to look over here at percent increase. And percent increase is just saying, hey, I've got this original amount, which is 100%, and I want to increase it by a certain percentage of the original. So, and then I'm looking at my answer is going to be the total of the original plus that extra percentage. So let's say that I have a rectangle here, and this rectangle's length is going to be 50 centimeters. And I want to increase the length of this rectangle by 25%. So the first thing I need to look at is that this 50 centimeters is the 100%, and I want to increase it by 25% of that original 50. So for this situation, there are three different equations. The first one's a direct translation, which is just going to say, hey, I want 100% of the 50, which is their original amount. And then I'm going to add to that 25% of 50 because that's my 25% increase. So to translate this into math, we've got 1 times 50 to figure out the first part. I'm going to add to that 25% of 50. So this is the first equation that I want to be able to recognize for the situation. Now, if I want to actually solve this, 1 times 50 is 50, plus 25% of 50 is going to give me 12.5, which sums to 62.5. The second equation is just looking at, I'm going to deal with the percentages first, so I'm going to find the percent of the original. So I started off with 100%, and then I added to that 25%. And so I want this part of this percentage of 50. So if I translate that into math, then I know that 100%, let me fix that really quick. 100% is just 1, plus the 25% is 0.25 of 50 tells me I need to multiply times 50. And I'm just going to stop right there because this in itself is an equation that says I want the 100% plus the 25% of 50. So the third equation is actually going to combine these. So 100% plus the 25%, which will be 125% of 50. So I can just leave it like this. Now we're going to do some rapid fire examples. Or just one example. So let's say I have a rectangle of 320 with an increase of 35%. And I'm going to write the three different equations that will go with this. The first one's going to be looking at just the sections of each one, the parts. So I want to have 100% of 320. So that's my original. So I'm getting my original. So 100 times 320 plus that 35% of 320. So there's my first equation. The second one is going to be bringing just the percentages together. So that's my 100% plus 35% of 320. And my third one is going to be combining those. So I have 135% of 320. All right, moving on to percent decrease. Same concept. I start off by looking at my original, which is 100%, but instead of adding on, I'm going to be subtracting this percentage here, and my answer is going to be this leftover from what I subtracted. So if I start off with a rectangle, and it's going to be 50 centimeters, and I want to decrease this by 25%. So here's my 100%, and I'm going to subtract off the 25%. So I'm going to be looking and making those three equations again. So starting off, I'm going to find each one of the values and then subtract them. So 100% of 50 centimeters, and then I'm going to subtract off 25% of the 50 centimeters, which will be 1 times 50, 100% times 50, minus the 25%, so 0.25 of 50 times 50. So this is my first equation. Now, if I want to solve this, that would be 50 minus 25% is 12.5. So I would get 37.5 as my answer. Now, we're not focusing on the answer, we're just focusing on the equation. Okay, next equation would be just focusing on the percentages. So it's going to be 100% minus the 25% of 50. So if I translate that, that will be 1 minus 0.25 of 50. Okay, and then my third equation is just going to be combining these two percentages. So 100 minus that 25% there, and what I'm actually going to be getting is this section right here. Okay, so that percentage, which will be 75%, because 100% minus 25 will give me 75. So that's 75% of 50, which will be 0.75 of, which is times 50. So 0.75 times 50, which also gives me 37.6. Okay, so moving on to those quick examples. Okay, so here are those three examples again. My situation is going to be a rectangle with a length of 120, and I want a decrease of 12%. So here's my 100%. I'm going to subtract off this 12% here. So let's go through the three different equations. The first one is looking at the actual parts. So I want 100% of 120 minus the 12% of 120. The next equation is going to just look at the percentages. So 100% minus that 12% of 120. The third one is combining that 100% minus 12%, which gives me 88% of 120. So those are our three equations. This pretty much summarizes the entire lesson of how to find those percentages using equations. Let me know if you have any questions. You can always come and see me during office hours or before and after school.